In this video, we'll be talking about factoring tricks. First, let's talk about sign tricks. So that no one is confused, let's label these signs. Now let's talk about what happens when the second sign is positive. When the second sign is positive, we will have two different scenarios. Either both factors will have a plus sign, or both factors will have a minus sign. Now let's see what information we can get from our first sign. When our second sign is positive, these are the scenarios that we will have. If our first sign is now positive, then this will be the scenario that we'll have. If the first sign is negative, then that means that this will be the scenario that we will have. So to review, if the second sign is positive, then both factors will have the same sign, either both negative or both positive. And now the first sign will tell us what that sign is. If it's negative, then they'll both be negative. If it's positive, then they'll both be positive. Now let's talk about what happens when the second sign is negative. So when the second sign is negative, our factors will have different signs. So one will be plus and one will be minus. But what information will the first sign tell us? If the first sign is now positive, then that means the bigger number of the two will go in this location with the plus sign. If the first sign is negative, then that means the bigger number of the two will go in this location with the negative. So that everyone understands what we're talking about, let's look at a quick example of this case where the second sign is negative. So the numbers, I'll go ahead and tell you, that will work will be 2 and 3. But first, this sign is negative, so we know that one will be plus and one will be minus. The numbers that will work are 2 and 3. We'll talk more about how to get those in a moment. And so which one's larger? 3. So because this sign is negative, the larger number 3 will go with that sign. And so 2 will go with the other one. If we check this using FOIL, we can multiply x times x and get x squared. X times negative 3 will be negative 3x. 2 times x will be 2x. And 2 times negative 3 will be negative 6. Now if we combine these two middle terms, we'll get our final solution of x squared minus x minus 6. So that means that indeed this will work. So to review, when the second sign is positive, both factors will have the same sign. Then the first sign will tell us what that sign is. When the second sign is negative, each factor will have a different sign. So this means that one will be positive and one will be negative. In this case, the first sign will tell us the sign of the bigger number, as in that example that we just saw. Now, how did I find those numbers 2 and 3? The good news is it's actually possible to find those numbers right from the beginning without having to go through all those combinations that we had seen in a previous video. What we can do is we say to ourselves that we want to find two numbers that multiply together to get this number, but do this operation to get this number. Now I don't look at the sign here. I just look at this sign. So What I want is I want two numbers that multiply together to get 15 that add together to get 8. So if I list the factors of 15, 1 and 15, those add together to get 16. 2 won't work. So 3 and 5, those add together to get 8. So those are indeed the numbers that I need. Now I look at my signs and I use my sign tricks to be able to tell me where my signs need to go. So remember, the second sign is positive, so that means that both are going to be the same. The first sign is negative, so that means that they're both going to be negative. And then I can fill in my numbers of 3 and 5. Let's look at another example. I want to find two numbers that will multiply together to get 12 that will subtract or differ by 4. So if I list the factors of 12, I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So 1 and 12, those differ by 11. 2 and 6, those differ by 4. 3 and 4, those differ by 1. So the number that I was looking for was 4, and so that means that these will be the numbers that I'm going to use. Now I use the tricks about signs to tell me where my signs will go. So this sign was negative, so that means that one will be plus and one will be minus. This sign is negative, so that's going to be the sign of the larger number. The larger number was 6, so the 6 is going to go here because of this minus sign, and then the 2 will go here. Let's look at another example. I want to find two numbers that will multiply together to get 20 that will add together to get 9. So if I list the factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and 4 and 5 do add together to get 9. So those are the numbers that I need to use. Now I'll use my tricks about signs. This sign, the second sign, is positive, so that means that both will be the same. The first sign is negative, which means that they're both going to be negative. And my numbers are 4 and 5. Example 6. I want to find two numbers that will multiply together to get 32 that will differ by 14. So first I'll list the factors of 32, 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. So now let's find the ones that differ by 14. That would be 2 and 16. So those are going to be our numbers. Let's use our tricks about signs to show us how that these will factor. This second sign is negative, so that means that one will be plus and one will be minus. Our first sign is positive, so that means that our larger number will be positive. Our larger number was 16, so 16 will go here and 2 will go here. Now let's talk about how to factor trinomials when a is not equal to 1.